Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 of Bioethics. This week we're going to be looking at duties-based or obligations-based types of ethics. How do we behave if we have a certain set of rules and guidelines? So unlike what we talked about last week, where we think of the outcome or the results or the consequences, this week we're thinking about beforehand, what is my obligation? How should I behave based on a set of agreed upon rules, okay? With that, the biggest person people think about with regard to duties, and deontology is a duties-based study, they think about Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was most well known for what he called the categorical imperative. And I'm going to break that down for you. I know you have it in your reading, but I think it's really important to highlight the specific points of how his duties-based morality works. He was born into a very religious family, but he himself wanted to find an ethics that could be universalized to everyone, everywhere, all the time, regardless of religion. So he's looking for a secular set of morals that would guide us no matter what religion we were from, where we lived. He does say, and he recognizes that humans are prone to corruption. Humans are prone to bad behavior, yet they do have the highest intellect. So he was very optimistic in thinking we could overcome our natural propensity toward corruption. We can use our higher powers of intellect and think better. How does he want us to do that? Well, first he says we have to get over these roadblocks. We have to get beyond these things that get in the way of our pure duty, our ability to be really good moral creatures. What are these things? Well, first of all, mainly, he says, without thinking, without intellectualizing, most humans behave in a way that is going to benefit them. In other words, he says, we can never be certain that actions done out of duty are free from hidden inclinations. He wants them to be. He wants us to behave morally, ethically, based on duties, because that's the right thing to do. However, he says, unfortunately, most people don't. Most people think about, what am I going to get out of this? What are the inclinations? What are my hidden motives for doing what I'm going to do? But again, he's very optimistic, and he believes as humans, we can move beyond that. So how do we do that? He has a few moral propositions. And he says our actions, in order to have moral worth, must be done out of a sense of obligation. We should do this. We should behave this way. We should tell the truth. We should not kill, because it's the right thing to do. Not, let's say, for instance, we should not kill because we might go to jail, right? That's a consequentialist approach. But he says, no, we should do what's right, for example, not killing, because it's the right thing to do. That's our duty as human beings. Therefore, for him, an action has moral worth, not if it achieves a goal, not if it results in a certain consequence, but if your will is good, if it is pure, and you are doing things because it's the right thing to do. Also, he says, this must be done out of respect for the law, not legal law, not like the state of New York law or your state law, but the law of reason. What does that mean? The law of practical reason involves a couple of things that he calls the categorical imperative. There are two formulations of the categorical imperative, and this is really the key to understanding Kant. You have to understand these two formulations of the categorical imperative. One, he says, act in such a way that everything you do could become a universal law. What does he mean by that? Not, again, that the legal system will adopt your action, but that universally around the world, no matter what you do, think about, would you want everyone else to do it? In other words, if I lie, I have to think, first of all, do I want the whole world lying? Okay, so act in such a way that you would think you want the whole world to act that way. Another way you've heard this is don't behave in a way that you don't want others to behave. That's what the first formulation is saying. Okay, so here's the translation to make it easier. Act in such a way that you would want the whole rest of the world to act, okay? Or do not act in a way that you would want the whole world to act, okay? Behave as you would want others to behave. That's the first formulation. The second formulation says, act in such a way that you treat people well. You treat them as ends in and of themselves, never as means. We're going to break that down as well. What does this equate to? How shall we treat others? Think of when you go to a store, or you go see your doctor, or you have a nurse treating you. Do you look at that person as someone who has inherent moral worth, as someone worthy of being a friend, or someone that you can respect just plainly as a human being? Not what they can do for you, but respecting them because we respect all of humanity. He says, if we can act that way, that's the second formulation of his categorical imperative, then our actions have moral worth as well. So what does that look like? I'm going to break it down even further with a little bit of graphics. Means. A means is an instrument. Okay, so if I'm treating someone as a means, when I go to the doctor, I'm thinking, hurry up, I need you to do this for me. I need to get out of here. You are an instrument. You are a tool at my disposal. Kant does not want you to think that way. It's not a kind way to think. He wants you to consider people as ends in and of themselves. What does that mean? We have respect for other human beings because they are intellectual creatures just like us. We're not always looking at them, nor should we ever, according to Kant, look at them as for what they can do for us. So another other terminology, you can think of means as being that extrinsic, outside, instrumental value, that kind of tool value, if you will. Ends, on the other hand, is intrinsic. Intrinsic is inside, internal, existing. It's granted or given value. So if you look at, let's say, your parents, do you always treat them as ends? Are you able to always go to them with respect and admiration and really honoring them as having intrinsic value? Or do you look at your parents as like, can I get $20 from you? And you're kind of a cash machine, right? So Kant wants you to always view people as ends in and of themselves, as having intrinsic value, not solely as means, what they can do for you. And I'm going to ask you to think about whether you can, in fact, do that all the time. It's a great thought experiment. Okay, case in point, here's something I want you to think more about and we'll talk more about in the discussion. We're going to watch a video on organ donors, and this is a great time to pause and think about intrinsic versus extrinsic, or instrumental versus intrinsic value. What would Kant say about organ donors? If they choose themselves to be organ donors and they want to donate their organs, he would say great, as long as they had all the information and they were not coerced. If they were coerced by someone, what do you think he would say? Given the categorical imperative, those two formulations, I want you to consider that. And as you go out in the world, I want you to think about whether you can always adhere to those two formulations of the categorical imperative. We're going to talk more. I'm having fun. I hope you are too. See you soon.